Tottenham Hotspur 0, Wolverhampton Wanderers 2, Shaka Hislop. And before we get to Spurs, can we please have some appreciation for the job that Bruno Lage is doing after a slow start to the season? Because not from nowhere, because if you've been paying attention to Wolves, you'll be well on top of this one. But for those that haven't been paying attention and think, oh my God, that's a huge shock. Is it really, though, as Wolves go above Spurs?
Well, the result isn't a huge shock, especially if you saw the 90 minutes. But I'm kind of somewhere in between the two. And at no point do I remember discussing Wolves and their potential for finishing top four. Yet, as this game unfolded and I looked closer at their schedule and their run, it really has been impressive. Okay, you lose 1-0 to Arsenal recently. We could discuss that separately. But before that, dating back to the beginning of November, Wolves have only lost to Liverpool and Manchester City. They've had disappointing draws with Norwich and Burnley, I believe it was. They quite clearly are a hard team to beat. And then, again, I mentioned that result against Arsenal, disappointing for them. Yes, it was. You cannot question that they deserved all 3 points against Spurs today.
And how about an appreciation society among goalkeepers for Jose Sa, another clean sheet? And when he came to the club to replace what many thought was going to be the irreplaceable, questions were asked. Those questions have been answered, and how?
Yeah, well, without question. And yes, you're absolutely right. And he certainly has been outstanding and deserves his spot and is in keeping with everything that we've seen from Wolves of late. Difficult to beat, just don't know when to lie down, it seems, or raise the white flag. And all of a sudden, this is a Wolves team that have become, I'm going to stop myself of saying, a force to be reckoned with, just because of how big the gap still is between that pack that are all vying for top four and the top two. In terms of that discussion around the top four, that discussion that's revolved mainly around Arsenal, Spurs, Manchester United, West Ham, who've been there, and I'm not that convinced that they'll finish top four. Wolves, with games in hand on West Ham, look, again, just given that run and how difficult they have been to beat, I'm kind of believing that they are in pole position right now to finishing top four. Games in hand aren't much good unless you win them. So, of course, there's that caveat. But if you're Wolves and you're sitting in that dressing room and you know the football you've been playing, you know the run you've been on, you're quietly confident.
I'm going to give you a blank canvas, Shaq. Where do you want to start with Spurs?
Well, I think we have to start with Antonio Conte. I think the substitution of Ryan Sessegnon that early in the game speaks to that he made in team selection in setting the tactics up against a very good Wolves team. As we can see, he made adjustments and the second half was better and Spurs could have gotten something given their chances, particularly in the second half. The horse had already bolted at that point. And at that point, it's about Wolves not letting any goals in as opposed to Spurs, trying to figure that out. At the same time, though, Spurs were desperately poor, started slowly. Hugo Lloris was at fault for both goals. Certainly the first, I think he could have done better with the second punch. I thought he had time to catch. There was a defender on the line, and maybe that, just kind of in his peripheral vision put him off. But I would expect better from a goalkeeper of that quality and that experience in particular. And then once you, as we've been discussing, once you give Wolves that kind of a start, it's difficult to catch them. And as much as we can point to goalkeeping errors or defensive errors, let's give Wolves their own credit for recognizing when Spurs got themselves in trouble, pressed, and were rewarded for it.
We're at the stage with Spurs. If they lose 2-0 at home to Wolves, we're not surprised. If they beat Wolves 3-0 at home, we're not surprised. How does Antonio Conte get more consistency from his side?
That is a very good question. Made two really good signings, in particular in the January transfer window. You thought this team was taking on more of Hislop. This is a manager who is known to be well organized, to be defensively resolute. But as much as we praise Wolves for their run, when you look at Spurs, they've only kept one clean sheet this calendar year, that coming on January 1st, and that coming against Watford, I believe it was, which, you know, a team in the bottom three speaks volumes as to what you expect from Antonio Conte and how little has been delivered in that regard.
Who's more likely to qualify for Europe, Tottenham Hotspur or Wolverhampton Wanderers, as we sit right now?
Right. Wow. You know, I covered this on ESPN FC this week or last week, and I was still leaning Spurs. And then you look at what happened this weekend. Manchester United dropped points. Obviously, Wolves get the better of Spurs. West Ham still to come as we record against Leicester. As I said earlier in this segment, I'm starting to believe that Wolves have pole position in finishing top four.
Well, you can add Wolves to Newcastle and West Ham and teams that you want to cheer for. But for Spurs, right now, it's difficult to predict what's coming next with them.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.